Good morning, all. We're continuing the second session, second module. It's continuation. Actually, we discussed a lot of terms that day under levels of organization in nature. Actually, the main topic, main title is levels of organization in nature. And some of the terms were familiar for us, like organism, and some other new terms we defined, like species, population, community. Ecosystem is something not something new to be new to us, but we discussed that. And even biomes and the biosphere. Biomes, like a set of ecosystems sharing similar characteristics and that adapts to the climate. That's where we stopped. But we didn't discuss ecological niche. That also is a term with that. A term under the same topic, levels of organization. Ecological niche. The term is pronounced to be ecological niche. Niche, niche. So what is that? Actually, it refers to the unique functional role and position of a species in its habitat or ecosystem. Actually, it's about the functional role of a species. It's almost like the profession. Like when if you define that in a metaphorical way, we will come to that. We have to discuss the two other points before that. In nature, many species occupy the same habitat, but they perform different functions. Like all the species do not carry out or do not possess the same kind of functions. Even their food habits, like some are preparing food, some are consuming the food prepared by the other types, other categories. In any case, in every role, there is an intricate connection or intricate influence on the part of this particular species in the balance in the mode of in balancing the ecosystem or sustaining the balance and harmony of the ecosystem. So that are taken as the functions or their roles as such because of the same reason. We cannot say that they take food or they consume or they prepare food for their own. How does it matter for others? But actually, all these together constitute the kind of balance or harmony in the ecosystem in general. So there each and every function, their role matters. The functional characteristic of a species in its habitat is referred to as niche. In that common habitat, not just one or two species. Many species can live together in a particular space and particular ecosystem. You can find out a lot of different kinds of species, but each type may have its own functional role. So if you take this habitat of a species like an address, like this is my home, my address means it where it lives. That's what you mean by the term habitat also. You please note down. So there you can see the place where the habitat that it occupies can be taken as the address, and niche in that way. If you want to see, it's a profession. What are you doing there? If you take my campus address, this is the place where different kinds of people, not just in the case of see, all of us are human beings, but teachers take part one role. You people are there, you are students and you study, and teachers have the role, the profession of teaching. Your role is that of learning. Sometimes when other cultural activities come, we all work together in different other roles. So this is the way your roles, functions differ. Think about other set of people who are also part of an educational system. So their role is there in that way itself. So the activities and responses that change actually, not just always the same. When examination is there, teachers go for invigilation duty. In the same rows when it is classroom teaching, we are there for lecturing. So activities and responses of a species, a particular set of people, and it changes. It differs from species to species. A niche is unique for a species, while many species share the habitat. Sometimes you can say like teachers, their main role is to teach. Students, the main role is to study. If you want to say like so, that way also you can see this. So uniqueness in their role, a specificity in their role. ചിലപ്പോൾ ചെറിയ ചെറിയ മാറ്റങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ എന്താണ് മോസ്റ്റ് ഓഫൺ ഒരു ഫംഗ്ഷൻ പർട്ടിക്കുലർ ഫംഗ്ഷൻ അതിൽ ഇംപ്ലൈഡ് ആയിരിക്കും. Okay, so this is because of the competition with one another until one is displaced. Actually, we could see this kind of a very common idea about the sustaining of life on Earth, like survival of the fittest. Sometimes, see certain species get erased from the whole of Earth because of their unable to survive. Sometimes if they are unable to survive the changes in the atmosphere, they become extinct due to other features, other reasons. Sometimes like climate changes, sometimes some natural calamities. That also may lead to the extinction of the species. So niche also is a new term for you. Okay, so these ideas are already given to you, and now we have to go to the next main topic. It's food chain. Next main topic is food chain. It's a new term and new topic under your module. What do you mean by food chain? Actually, it's a transfer of food energy from source plant through a series of organisms with the repeated stages of eating and being eaten. That is the simple definition for that. Transfer of food energy. Actually, it's not in the form of material. Your food chain, if you talk, it's in terms of this transferring of energy we talk. Ultimately, yeah, actually, at the basic level, you see the transfer of food energy itself. When you eat a plant, or when you eat an organ, when you eat some flesh, meat, you see that material to be transferred, material to be eaten directly. But we don't talk in terms of material usually. This is about food chain. If you define that, may be always under the term food energy, concept of energy getting transferred from source plant. Now we know who are taking care of photosynthesis and how they are capable of preparing food for themselves and for others. And the first stage is with the herbivores, then carnivores, sometimes animals eating both plants and animals. So this is the way it can change. But there are also at every stage of this eating and being eaten. Eating means one is eating. One is taking food. Either plant as the food, directly herbivores, or meat or flesh. By that they become carnivores or omnivores. But there is a process of being eaten also. Being eaten means, yeah, you have a passive voice there. Passive means, yeah, plant is being eaten by rabbit. Rabbit is being eaten by lion. So this also can be there. That also can be there. And then, what about that energy from food to food. It flows from one to the other stage. This is about a stage wise process from different levels, and we have a level of organization actually. On the basis of this food energy, transferring of food energy, food or food based food energy from food, we can have a diagram based representation there. Okay, just let us see how a food chain may look like. It's very simple to note down the type of food chain which are essentially available to us very easily. And sometimes grass. Directly we can see deer. A deer eats it. It's some grass or something. And that deer is eaten by lion, or lion eats the deer. In that case, this is one kind of a food chain. It's about one to the other, then to the next. So a chain-like process. ഒരു ചെയിൻ ആയിട്ടാണ് അതിങ്ങനെ പോകുന്നത്. So not should not always be deer. You can replace this animal, and you can have another animal in between. So food chain, you don't have a particular specific representation. Always it should go in this way. But it can never be grass, then lion, then deer. For that, actually, we need the basic idea of primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. Yes, this is the representation for you. So, body image. Have drawn that. You see, producers at the first top level, basic level. Top level in the sense, it's a basic level. You have producers. They are the first one to produce food, and from there you can go to herbivores. If you take this grass to be the producer, in the case of this food chain that we discussed just now, you can take the deer to be the herbivore. Deer is the herbivore because producer directly, that grass is eaten directly by the deer. And here primary consumer. Actually, in that sense, the deer is the primary consumer in this food chain. Then that deer is eaten by the lion, and then that carnivore, that flesh-eating animal becomes the secondary consumer, stays the secondary consumer in this particular food chain. And what about the tertiary consumers? They are the maybe dead matter eating organisms, and all. You can take that. Like after the death of the lion, you can have the body decaying under earth. Body of the lion, that dead matter, how it is getting decayed. Actually, the work of the eating and the process of this dirty was some other microorganisms and all. Okay. What about the meeting? Is it okay, fine? Yes. Then we came across one type, or there is an example. This is just one example. Let us take another example with the grass, cattle, any kind of cattle. Right, and then cattle is getting eaten by man directly. If you want, you can add after man, you can add lion or tiger. But it's again, you don't need it's not mandatory that you have some 4 to 5 people add, 5 stages added, but you can represent it in a very simple manner like this. One producer, then a herbivore, if you want, you can show, and then you can have this next secondary consumer. So that can be the, if you want, you can add and add and add, then you can make it more elaborate. But you can, it's very simple representation, and still you can have 2 main types of food chain. One is grazing type and the other is detritus. These 2 examples that we took may be taken as an example, as examples for grazing food chain. For what is that? What is this grazing food chain in that way? Grazing. The definition is it starts from green plants, the kind that we usually write down, usually think about. നമ്മൾ പെട്ടെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അതാണ് ഈ ഗ്രേസിംഗ് ടൈപ്പ് ആണ് നമ്മൾ പറയുക. Grazing starts from green plants. Then it goes to grazing animals like a cow or goat. Then it goes to the meat eater, like some of the carnivores or omnivores, whichever it may be. So that is the usual kind of always when some tells you when there is a need to write down a food chain, represent a food chain. We all sometimes start with some plant and then we write down the name of a herbivore and then we go to the carnivore or omnivore. So what there can be another kind, yet another kind. Second type it's detritus food chain. Detritus. What do you mean by this detritus food chain? It starts from dead organic matter. It starts from it even starts from dead organic matter. There is nothing living about it, but yeah, in the very beginning it's from dead organic matter. Now, obviously, that's is living beings are there, but the starting is from that organic matter. There is nothing about the producers, the green plant, nothing. But it goes to the kind of decaying material eating organisms like dirtivores to the predators, and from there you can elaborate if you prefer. Like but some dirt eating or dirt eating organism is consuming that dead organic matter, but that is in turn eaten by some predators. Sometimes you see some birds and or come and eat this dirty was. You see some worms and all they eat. These even the worms have a performance level in this detritus food chain. You know, dead organic matter, not just bacteria and all. If it is bacteria, you cannot say that predators have a role in that. But something that can be seen with the eyes, if those are consuming the dead organic matter above the soil. So some birds, predator type of birds, note them down and they try to eat that. In that way, this detritus food chain gets a kind of, you can represent that in that way then. Okay, yes. So that's all with the main topic, food chain under this module. Hope you are aware, hope it is clear for you. Food chain, two main types. It can be grazing and detritus. But grazing food chain is the usual kind that we draw, but detritus, we have a representation in this way. It's very simple, but predator birds, how their role is the in completion of that. Please think about it. Okay. Now to food webs. Food webs. What is this food web? What about this food webs then? Food chain is over. Web is a term which is not that unfamiliar. And the very simple definition looks like should be on time. You should be on time. If you come to the class, we join, should be on time. Okay. Then food webs, interconnection of food chains. So very simple thing. Different food chains, if you take together, that can be taken as a food web. Means one grazing food chain you represent here. At the same time, another kind of eating and being eaten is taking place, and that is another food chain. At the same time, there is a detritus food chain happening at the same moment or later. But all those, if you take together, that interconnection of food chains, different food chains can be interconnected also. And then we call it the food web. The main reason is in any ecosystem, most consumers have multiple food sources. Sometimes it's grain, sometimes it's grass. A grain is eaten by mouse, and that mouse can be eaten by a hawk. Sometimes the same way grain is eaten by mouse, but mouse is not eaten directly by hawk, but a snake. Then that snake is eaten by hawk. So here also there is an interconnection of the food chain, like multiple same sources, the multiple other animals also come in between. Other type of consumers come in between. So this, but still there is an interconnection. Sometimes in the very beginning, sometimes in between, and those can be also connected. Those also can be looked at having with a kind of connection. You can note down a connection in between. That's why these are called the food webs. Or then in any ecosystem, you can see different types of food chains going on. At every moment, it's going on. An ecosystem, you have most consumers having multiple food sources. An individual food chain can become interconnected. In this way, individual food chain becomes interconnected. Till this part, this is the same. But in between, there comes another. Here, with a snake, another addition. Still, there is something you can note down. Some common features here. Common representatives here. And that can be taken as a food web. That is another next important topic actually, food web. Then what about trophic level? So next up, actually trophic level, under that we needed that representative picture. The diagram, the pyramid. The food chain, each food chain hold many different feeding stages. Like producers, herbivores, carnivores. Actually, just go back to that picture and you can again have a look at that. Producers, consume herbivores, carnivores. So here those both are consumers, and if an animal is eating food as a plant as well as animal food, or meat as well as see green plant as well as flesh or meat, that can be taken as an omnivore. Something very clear an idea. But there is a trophic level. You can define this to be a trophic level of energy transfer. Please note down the spelling, trophic level. Trophic. These two pronunciations are in use in this for that. So trophic level. Many different feeding stages are there, and you can see this to be the stage, like from producers to herbivores. Never can be the reverse in the reversal order. Okay, that's all with that part. And again, we have to talk about structure and function of ecosystem. Actually, these are the same topics, but it's good that you define those singly in a simple way. Like separately, if you discuss, it will be more clear. That's all. Structure and function of ecosystem. You know, an ecosystem can be the composition of species, population, distribution of non-living materials, and range of conditions like temperature, light, humidity. You know, ecosystem it comprises of all these factors, not just the living factors, but the non-living as well. And there's certain conditions suitable. If you talk in terms of the sustainability of life, ആ രീതിയിൽ പറയുമ്പം സ്യൂട്ടബിൾ ആയിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് വേണ്ടത്. ലൈക്ക് ടെമ്പറേച്ചർ, ലൈറ്റ്, ഹ്യൂമിഡിറ്റി, ആവശ്യമായിട്ടുള്ളൊരു വാട്ടർ കോണ്ടന്റ്, ഓൾ ദീസ് ആർ നെസസറി. ആൻഡ് സോ യു ക്യാൻ ഡിഫൈൻ എ പർട്ടിക്കുലർ സ്ട്രക്ചർ and a function for each component part. Let us see how the function. It's at the rate, see, like rate of biological energy flow, or the rate of production, respiration. Why do we have this shortage of oxygen now? Not in terms of pandemic only I'm talking. Even before this we used to talk about it. Even in India it occurred. The very recent times, and air is completely contaminated, polluted, and people are, yeah, the particular say they are using oxygen, uh, respiratory equipments like that. When you cannot directly take the air from the atmosphere because of this over pollution, contamination, and all. So all this there should be a rate, a function, a structure for this. The percentage of oxygen in the air where people live. You say that, oh, this place is very familiar to us. We have been living here all the while. But sometimes, all of a sudden, because of some human activities, some other pollution, think about the leakage of gas in Kano, Chala again, after some years in the same spot. Came across that in the last weeknight. Then immediately that air completely becomes contaminated, polluted. People are supposed to move away. And such differences may occur. So there should be a rate of the percentage of oxygen available in the particular area, in that air, atmosphere. And that is really important. So rate of nutrients or biological, ecological regulation, it is dependent of it depends upon these nutrients. Some elements, some gases, if its level is exceeded, organisms cannot survive. If certain harmful gases replaces oxygen or even carbon dioxide, or if carbon dioxide goes beyond a limit, if its rate goes beyond a limit percentage, we cannot survive. You may think that, oh, then this plants can prepare more food. Anyway, carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis. So what is the problem? If there is a high level, if it goes beyond a limit, it's good that they can prepare more food. അങ്ങനെയാണോ? അല്ല, it's it's risky, highly risky actually. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് അതിന്റെ ഫംഗ്ഷനും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സ്ട്രക്ചറും റേറ്റും ഒക്കെ കൃത്യമായിട്ട് ഡിഫൈൻ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഇത്ര അളവിൽ വേണം എന്നുള്ളതിന്റെ കൂടുതലാകുമ്പോഴാണ് then that particular area becomes unsuitable. It's not suitable for living. Unsuitable. I would like to check out if a term is not suitable for living. That's all. Okay. Then the main next topic is energy flow in an ecosystem. Actually, this is the main topic: energy flow. Not even this. The rate and all. If you want, you can combine that together. Okay, so energy flow in an ecosystem. Actually, the problem is movement of energy through an ecosystem is always unidirectional. Right? It's from external environment and most fundamental process. It's from external environment. You know that energy. First and foremost process is, yeah, a green plant is with the maximum chlorophyll content. You have available, you have enough carbon dioxide available. But for all this you need, or the green plant has to take that energy from sunlight. So that is the external, and from external environment that energy comes. It is not contained within. But even after that, even when that is available, we cannot prepare food of our own. That's how all these minute features, the lack or the presence or absence of certain components, become really important in an ecosystem, or the system where all these organisms are dependent each other, one another. And that's how it's this inner energy flow is a fundamental process. It sustains the very nature. It has much to do with the nature of life itself. Why everything is at least going on in this way? The reason is this kind of an energy flow, the transfer from one to the other, one to another. So it's about species cannot survive without energy. We all know that. In the form of food, we are taking energy for doing some. See, we may say like, you take food, otherwise you cannot study, you cannot play. Well, what do you mean? Actually, at the basic level, it's about the energy for your metabolism, your in the activities, organic activities, or bodily process, the cell-based activities. I don't have to say all these things to you. You know everything well. We learn those physiology, the kind of energy, how it is produced, how it is transferred, how it is kept inside body, how cells take care of that energy regulation inside the body. Not just in human beings, these processes take place. You get the idea? Yes. So that is transfer of energy from one tropic level to the other, and energy flow of solar energy. It's trapped. How does this happen? That energy is flowing from solar. So, what is available from solar sunlight? You are trapping it. Green plants are trapping it. It's trapped in green plants and it is stored as chemical energy. But after the photosynthesis or during photosynthesis, this green plants store this carbohydrates as chemical energy. After that, they take that as a carbohydrate. They store that as food, the carbohydrate, form of carbohydrate, and then is this part of this chemical energy that's not completely available and stored as carbohydrates for others. But most persons actually, yeah, the percentage level, if you calculate, it's very high. Maximum percentage is used, maximum of that energy is used for the process of photosynthesis itself. They do not give it completely well. For that process itself, they take maximum of the stored chemical energy. It's not completely transferred to the next tropic level. That's why, yeah, this green plants to plant maximum the number of plants to make it maximum. Deforestation we have to prevent. We say all these because of the same reason. Because maximum of green plants we have to assure, only in that way we may be availing maximum food energy, or this at least the carbohydrates that we need to complete the process of this food chain. Otherwise, from one to the other, when it goes again, when one herbivore eats a plant, it takes the energy, it gets the energy from the food it takes, but it has its own life process. By the time it is eaten by the other level, or the organized organism at the other level, again the same kind of energy loss you can assume, you have to expect. That's it. That's why major portion of energy consumed in the form of food by consumers. Consumers commonly, not just herbivores or not just carnivores, but everything which is dependent upon the other is a consumer. But you have different tropic levels and that is getting consumed. This energy is consumed at every stage. So the flow of energy is unidirectional. That is another difficulty. It's always from producers to consumers only. You cannot give anything back. You may say like, I water my plants every day. But that is not a natural process, that like you are giving food and fodder to your plants, or you are giving food to your cat or other pet animals. That is not taken into account of this tropic level based energy flow or something. You are not taking, actually, you are not taking part in the process of this natural energy flow, or you do not contribute anything to that natural energy flow in any of this process. But when you eat something, you are definitely taking a part in this. That is it. നമ്മൾ മറ്റുള്ള രീതിയിൽ ചെയ്യുന്ന ഫുഡ് കൊടുക്കുന്നതും പ്ലാന്റിന് വെള്ളം കൊടുക്കുന്നതൊന്നും ഇതിൽ വരില്ല. അതൊന്നും നമ്മൾ ആയിട്ട് ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ലെങ്കിൽ അങ്ങനെയല്ല. പക്ഷെ ഇവിടെ എന്താണ്, ഇത് ഒരു തരത്തിൽ ഒന്ന് മറ്റതിന് ഭക്ഷണമാക്കി ആ രീതിയിൽ പോകുന്നത് മാത്രമാണ് ഇവിടെ ശരിയായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു എനർജി ഫ്ലോ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന കോൺസെപ്റ്റിൽ വരുന്നത്. ഓക്കെ, സോ ദാറ്റ്സ് വൈ ഇറ്റ്സ് യൂണിഡയറക്ഷണൽ. അല്ലേ നമ്മൾ പറയാൻ തുടങ്ങും, വി സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ക്ലെയിമിങ് ലൈക്ക്, ഓ ഐ ഓൾസോ ഡു ലൈക്ക് ഓൾ ദോസ് തിങ്സ് ഫോർ ദം. ദാറ്റ്സ് നോട്ട്. So 90% of energy is lost when it is transferred from one tropic level to the other. I'd like to ask if every time this is possible, like getting admitted in a class when it is almost going to end. That's why I always tell you, if you join, please be on time. Otherwise, what are you going to get from the joining of the class? Of any class, no need of joining in that way. Next main portion, ecological balance and consequences of changes. It's not even we are not even supposed to discuss this. Should we discuss? We have been discussing all these things all the while, but still we can note down certain main points and how to discuss that, how to write something on that. Which are the points that should be there? So just about an organizing of knowledge, that's all. Ecosystem changes with the geological time. Main thing it's about. Naturally, it changes. Some ecosystems change naturally well. With geological time. You know, even with the in oceans we can see, even in riverside, we can see the change. If it is not human induced, because of some activity of human beings, like you are trying to go for constructing activities, or because of some other reasons like pollution, you cannot take that as a geological time based change. But sometimes even because of forest fire, that is naturally there, you can have a change in that ecosystem. Some systems automatically resist the change and comes back to equilibrium. Even after forest fire, it takes a lot of time. It takes much time for it to come back. Some species lost its habitat. A lot of them lost their lives. In a forest fire, if there is a forest fire, I'm just giving one example. You cannot expect all the animals and all the birds there to survive. A few, some of those could fly, some cannot, some can run. All of those cannot run and save themselves always. But after a time, after a long time, even that ecosystem as whole may come back. It can resist the change and come back to equilibrium. Some become barren land, but there also you can see some other plants and all sprouting after a long time at least, and it is coming back to the state of an ecosystem after that. Yes, see, we finish up this discussion as well. Uh, and you can term this process to be homeostasis. Homeostasis. Actually, the process of its coming back and taking again back to the shape of an ecological balanced mode of being an ecosystem. You can see, if you want, you can term this process to be homeostasis. Homeostas. Okay? Yes. And when we disturb the balance in nature, when we disturb the balance in nature, it works on that imbalance. Sometimes it's deforestation that is on the part of human beings. We cannot take this naturally occurring forest fire in that category. During deforestation itself, many species disappear. You cut down a tree. It's not just some birds. A lot of sometimes even not visible to the eyes. You can have a lot of ecosystems on one tree itself. You have to expect that. And because of this, what all effects are there? Actually, the topic is the consequence of changes. The relevance of this topic is to make us aware of the human activities and the changes it brings on the negative impact it holds on ecological balance, and how what are the consequences, and how and the importance of us to stay away from all this. Like rainfall gets affected and too many trees are cut down, rainfall is affected. These are interconnected, like how even rainfall, how it is affected. You have just try to think about that. The process of formation of rain, how the role of even role of plants, how to think the connection and the changes we induce on the ecosystem, how negativities we have to ever see. It's an every ecosystem is naturally attained balance. All those hold a naturally attained balance, and it holds a perfect harmony with the rest. Rest means the other. Unless and until we interrupt that, and we try to interrupt for our own purposes, our own benefits, it can hold a kind of harmony of its own. The clearing of forest to build dams. You see, like it's dam, it's storing water, something better. Only for human beings actually. But the clearing of forest is already there. Not just with the dams, many other building based activities, construction activities take place by clearing some forests or some other better ecosystems. Too many species, too many living beings live and live in a harmonious manner, and seeking to establish new ecosystem. Actually, wherever there is a replacement or affecting on ecosystem, it tries to re-establish the balance. Inhabitants of old systems disappear. That also takes place. And it may have disastrous consequences. It takes a long time for it to come back to equilibrium. Sometimes it doesn't come back to equilibrium at all. That also can be there. You cannot always expect an ecosystems to come back to the equilibrium in that way. Okay, so this is the way you have the ecological balance. But when you affect that, when you do something, when we people interrupt that balance, when we people go for some unlikely activities to affect its equilibrium, sometimes the consequence of the changes brought forth are very difficult for us to afford later at least. So that's already the second topic. That's ecological balance and consequences of changes. But with that, along with that, we have to discuss ecological succession as well. Ecological succession also is another part of this, but we will discuss that in the next session only. Thank you so much for listening.